What's up, guys? George Balekji here with Boston has entered the chat. But hey, check out the latest episode of Foxborough Rush. Travis Thomas and myself run through the entire Patriots draft, pick by pick, give our individual grades, then talk the big picture on the draft, big stories, favorite teams, favorite draft picks, talk the fallout for Shedeur Sanders falling all the way to the 5th, and we take a nice monster mailbag as well. That's Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcast. Now, let's get to the chat. All right, bring it in. It's Boston has entered the chat. George Balekji here with Kasey Hudson. Case, how we doing on this fine Tuesday?
We are okay.
Just okay?
NHL playoffs are ruining my life ever so slightly, but other than that, we're fantastic. Well, it's the sleep, it's the results, it's the surprises, it's all the things.
That's what you love for the NHL postseason, though. It's best postseason in pro sports, in my opinion.
100%, yeah. But it makes you so mental.
Yeah,
yes. Exactly. I'm just at the mental state of the year in the season, so I always forget how to act when that takes place.
There you go.
Life's good.
It's just madness right now. That's a good time. It's a springtime.
Epic madness.
Life's good for everyone, pretty much. I mean, draft's done. That was madness for me. I'm happy it's done with. Happy to look forward.
I can't wait to see you guys on Foxborough Rush, though, because I've been waiting to see what the final opinion was on the draft, especially between you and Travis.
It's all fun.
Yeah.
A little difference on kickers and long snappers being picked, but Travis, Trav, on me. I see how it is. I mean, it's all good for everyone, except for, it seems, Bill Belichick and UNC. By now, you most likely seen the clip, Jordon Hudson crashing, trying to help, doing something with his interview he had with CBS News Sunday morning. We'll be talking about that. And UNC potentially having buyer's remorse. Bill Belichick sending out an email, quotations. I don't think it's true. We'll also talk and take a look at the preview. Celtics Magic Game 5. Celtics should close it out. Ountae Campbell joins us for that. And then, as always, we have our WWE Ringside review, latest on Monday Night Raw. So, Case, let's get into it. It sounds like, Bill Belichick UNC was the interesting match. Sounds like stuff is still interesting going on, and it's not necessarily Bill Belichick itself, but it's more with his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordon Hudson. There's a report. Now, let me get to the interview. Did a sit-down interview with CBS News Sunday morning.
Right. It
was to promote his book, The Art of Winning, that is coming out. But during the interview, and Belichick references Jordon Hudson in his book, calling her his, quote, creative muse, was asked about the relationship, and she quickly shut it down. What's interesting with that is that the reporter for CBS said she constantly was a presence during the interview.
Right.
Even when Belichick was answering football questions, she was cutting him off, saying, don't answer it that way, and kind of taking control. So the reports now are that there were numerous other instances of Hudson butting in. Even when the legendary coach was answering questions about football, she would stop and correct him. Bill Belichick. Correct him on football. One source says Bill Belichick, this is from a TMZ article, only arrived at the interview with Hudson. No one from publishing company, no one from UNC, or any other rep, which is a bit of a head scratcher to CBS producers on set. It's Bill Belichick. It's a big interview. You'd think he'd show up with more than just his girlfriend.
Right.
We're told the higher-ups at CBS News and Sports had to get involved to figure out how to salvage it. And while a second interview was scheduled to go down at a later time, it was ultimately scrapped. And TMZ says this, we're told folks at UNC are now concerned about Hudson's influence on Belichick's tenure as a head football coach in Chapel Hill, especially with her essentially taking on a role as his manager. As the source put it, there's a growing sense this could become a problem.
This is disturbing. It's turning into one of those like, hey, Bill, blink twice if you're not okay.
I think he is okay with it.
So, okay, I have a couple of theories on it because we know that Belichick had his own personal way of addressing and dealing with media.
Yeah.
Very very curt, very to the point. If he didn't like your question, he didn't answer it.
Which is what the interview was, too, at certain points.
Basically. So, let's take a guesstimate that in this new era of his life, he's trying to be more vocal and he's trusting the young gal to help him do that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where he's going along with everything. But in the same sense, it's terrifying because regardless of what her intention is, if I'm UNC by any means, I care about the image of our head coach of our football program.
Yeah.
Football is king, is it not? So why by any means should she be the middleman between Belichick and the company and his employer that's going to go as hard as possible to protect him in any aspect? And you're talking about somebody who's beyond a well-seasoned vet in this space, in these circumstances. And yeah, the book situation might be new. He may have been more vulnerable in putting a book out there. That's typically what goes along with it. But who is she to help in this instance to where like she can't trust his employer to protect him? The PR team that probably gets paid very well to make sure that this gets translated out accordingly so that they're not going into a football season not only with a new football coach but like with a bunch of toxic headlines circulating. Yeah. That's what I don't understand.
It's the attention you don't want around the program.
At all. Like she's creating a completely different attention.
And it's also like she's 24. You got to be like a well-serviced vet to try and control an interview with CBS. And it's news. It's not sports.
Yep.
This is news. Entirely different animal with that approach too. But I watched a full interview and the reporter said like she was a constant presence. And when they say that gets to the point where she's a constant presence, butting in, cutting off questions. It happens all the time in interviews. They're not one fluid take. They're stop downs. Right. They reset their answers. They want, stuff to be redacted. The PR handler, whoever, will say, hey, don't use that. It's like, oh, okay, fine. If it's like in a respectful way, hey, we don't want you using that. Cool. Thanks for communicating us.
Right.
They won't say that. But when you keep doing it, that's why they show that clip of Jordon Hudson, like sitting in the corner, like watching the interview like a vulture.
Right.
And doing all that. What gets me is the question was, how do they meet? Mm-hmm. Which is the story. They met on a plane and they bonded over philosophy and whatever. And that's it in 2021. That's public knowledge. When CBS asks that too, it's like not everyone knows Bill Belichick's story. That's why they're doing this piece. That's why he puts out a book. There's a sports to know it. Then there's the rest of the mass. But like that's public knowledge. You don't want them knowing that. And if it's Bill, it's like we met in 2021 on a plane. It was nice. Oh, wow. How did that go? And just like no more. She posted on her Instagram story on Tuesday of one of her posts of Bill that signed a book in 2021, February 11, 2021 to her as their like meet-iversary. So you don't want him talking about how they met or when you met in 2021.
But you'll put it on social media?
And it goes in again of you want to date the most famous football coach of all time, but you don't want to be spoken about in the public. But you're going to post him doing yoga with you and doing all that stuff, the mermaid stuff, but you don't want to be spoken about in the public. It's just cake, eat it too. And the whole thing's weird to me.
No, it's hypocritical and it's constant contradictory to everything, because then the next thing that's so weird about that, I love that you put out, chooses to date the most famous football coach in history. When you decided that you're going to allow him to continue to have a spotlight, let alone you're going to dictate what that spotlight looks like and everything that comes with it, wouldn't you think as a couple, I don't even want to go in a power couple category, but as a couple by any means, wouldn't you think that they would have already dialed down like what they want their scripted meet cute to be?
Yep.
I feel like most celebrity couples already know what their like one-liner is of like, oh my God, how'd you guys meet? This. And then you move on. It was the way that she jumped in that was so weird. That's what a PR professional
does. We met on a book, we chatted, we exchanged numbers, we stayed in touch. 3 years later, we started dating.
Right, and then that's the next thing. You want to be in charge of all of these pieces. And then you talked about the fact you're going to be a 24-year-old to handle the magnitude of what public relations entails, and you didn't come into this with a cut and dried, this is how we met, we loved it, this is fantastic, move on. Like, give him a move on line. Don't shut it down like a crazy person. And then it's even more weird because she hops in after he talks about her being his creative muse.
Yeah.
Well, how did he inspire you? You don't want that to be, again, another scripted line that you're a part of?
Yeah. You don't want to be spoken about. Then there was the email. Now she posted on Instagram, full statement coming out later today. It hasn't been posted yet. I don't even know what the statement will be.
Statement on what?
But it was Belichick sending an email in response to the Boston Globe's like review of the book. And he said, I don't think this is fantastic, but it probably will hype the book, which is clearly the ongoing theme here, because he would use hype. This is about what I expected from the media. We went through how important it was for me to put I effed up in the book, and of course, et cetera, et cetera. The one that got to me was, we'll see what the title of the article is, which I noticed has been conveniently left out. Do we have approval on that? I would approve this article if we can also approve the headline, which is actually more important than the article. Do we have approval on that? Belichick wouldn't ask, do we have approval on that? He would say, I need to approve this or else it's not going out.
George, Belichick wouldn't write this much, period, that I could picture at all. Like, once I saw there was, 4 paragraphs here, I was like, who wrote this?
TLDR, too long, didn't read.
Exactly.
Not going to read. With all of this. And then he ends it at, I have at times reluctantly gone along with the title, cover, and language in the book. I'm not going to be the conductor of a hype train in the book promotion. We have enough hype to work with. Hope we can get on the same page in promoting the book authentically. Thanks, BB. What?
No. Mm-mm. That doesn't sound authentically BB.
They're both in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So it seems. She's his momager, girlfriendager, whatever you want to call it, his manager, whatever it may be. And it's also like he's 73, she's 24. That's always going to be part of it. I also wonder with the Instagram posts, which he was asked about. I honestly do wonder. I don't know if Bill Belichick does comprehend what
Social
Instagram
media
is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she posted it. It's fine. It's cool. And he has an Instagram. He doesn't post from his Instagram. She probably does all of this. I don't think he understands what it is, though, of how many people see it. And it's not like just his friends or family. Like, it's public and it goes viral every time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think he understands it either. And I don't think 100% he's not running it. It's her running it. Because when did he surface onto social media? When they started dating. Yep. So it's just like the timing of it, how perfect. And then I think you're spot on with the fact that he doesn't realize the reach of it, because to consistently look like the puppy that's just going to allow her to continue to walk the show here, like, it makes no sense that he's okay with what she posts in correlation to like what they're trying to make their image be.
Yeah.
But then my next question to all this is like, where is his grown kids that are older than her?
I was saying when I was talking in the newsroom, I think one of the best interviews right now would be his kids.
100%.
If you have to get something out of them, it's like, what do you think of this?
Of your potential new stepmom.
Your dad just being controlled by a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
Weird.
One of the most fierce voices in football.
Yeah.
Like, and I understand everybody has their switch or whatever, but like, we're seeing it too loudly, if that makes sense.
And the interview was fine. Like, watching it, how they opened it, how they edited it. It was like a fine interview. Like, he was giving decent answers. He was smiling. He's like, oh, cool to see Belichick like this.
Right.
Weren't not any crazy questions. He was asked about leaving Robert Kraft out of his book. He was like, yeah, it's correct. He's not in the book. And like moved on. It was like the typical Belichick, the awkward pauses, all that. But when it gets to that point, it's like, and for him too, it's like he can handle it. There was part of the article, apparently she like stormed out of the room, delayed the recording for 30 minutes. Then after, she was mad that Bill didn't follow her out of the room.
Stop it.
So even he clearly was like it happened. He's like, I'm good here. We're good. Like, what's going on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to be in the spotlight? Like,
allegedly, reportedly, this is what happened, yeah.
What kind of other bait switch stuff are we in for? So then here's the other thing that I don't want to skirt over. To interrupt when there's a football question going to one of the great football minds, like, how? Who are you? There
has to be some like delusional ego there in some way.
Dude, my brother, like, when I was younger, of course I had a little bit more of like a cockiness to me and stuff like that, because my brother forced me to like study his playbook with him and whatnot. If I jumped in by any means to any conversation he was doing where it was his craft, I would be locked out of like the house forever. Like,
and then she's going to say
the karma that would come back to me.
And she's going to cut off the greatest football coach of all time from giving answers.
And again, you're 24 years old. Yeah. Like, to what length and obsession have you had with this game to pause whatever thought he had? Yeah. Like, in what way was he going to bury himself with a football response? You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's also where the intentions just look so skewed here. Like, you just are trying to show the world that you possess control over one of the greatest football coaches. And you're doing it in so many ways possible. That's why I'm desperate to know, like, what would his kids think? Like, what does his son think? Right?
The one that's on his staff at UNC too.
Yeah.
And that's what we see. Like, he's coaching on the field. She's constantly walking up to him, like fixing his microphone or something like that. Whoever knows what's doing, just interfering. And this is also the same, like, forced her way into the Dunkin' Donuts commercial, you know?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, it's getting weirder and weirder. And seeing in that setting, and UNC's now like, this is too much. And that's where, like, you're not bigger than the university. You're not bigger than the team. He was fired by the Patriots. You're not bigger than what the brand or the company is. Trying to get a little too big. And I think, like, for him, he took the UNC job, loves football, just wants to coach it. It's fine. She's getting in the way of that, of like, hey, you could do nothing and we'll be okay. It'll be all right either way. I think that's where the conversation has to have.
She's tainting it. Like, if I'm UNC, then I'm putting reins on this situation. Girlfriend can't be on the field. Like, there just needs to be a degree of separation there. Yeah. I don't care if she's your manager. If we're focusing on one thing and we have the means, the capacity, and the staff that we pay to handle it, she is the second line of defense.
I want to see one more
by
time.
By any means.
Let me check the Instagram. Is there a
if
statement
it's still,
out?
If she put the statement out there. I don't know.
Nope, full statement to be released later today. It was also this, like, the screenshot of like a random timestamp and just feet in grass. Again, like, what's going on?
I don't understand what she's getting at. That's like, so again, Bill, blink twice if you're not okay.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with this whole situation.
He's fine. It's just, he's cool with it. So
I don't know what she's putting in his coffee at this point.
Oh my gosh. Just the beginning. Just the beginning. But hey, if you don't have Nessun 360 just yet, now is your time to get it for only $1 for your first month. Sign up at Nessun360.com for this limited time offer to stream the Sox. All right, it's Game 5 for the Celtics and the Magic. Closeout game for the C's at home. So we brought on our guy, Ountae Campbell from Hold My Banner. Ountae, I know you're talking plenty of Celtics on Banner. We got to bring you on the chat. How we doing, my man?
Dude, I'm doing good. Excited for Game 5. You got to get me out of here so I can go mess around with the fans, dog.
Exactly. So we've seen rock fights through the first 4 games on this one, but 107-98, the most recent one. Celtics pulling away at the end. No Jrue Holiday, but what are you watching for in a closeout game at home for the C's?
I'm looking for a good offensive game from every Celtic. It's been a while since we've seen that offensive explosion from both of the Jays, from KP, from Derek White, from, Jrue Holiday's out missing this one, but from Peyton Pritchard. We need something that brings the city back into that energy where we know that we're winning 16 games this playoffs and nothing less.
I like the offensive focus to get things going. So, of course, I've got to ask you, who's the next man up that you would look to contribute? I know you named a few guys, but looking at the drop-off, if it's not Tatum putting up 30-plus points, then who's going to help contribute? Because you're going against a desperate Magic team. Doesn't matter if they win the series. Right now, they just need to make sure that this series doesn't look embarrassing on their end.
Yeah, you know who I'm looking to? It's a guy that everyone's been talking about in the city because he's had an up-and-down season all year this year, a shooter who's been there for them in big moments. I think this is a game where Sam Hauser needs to step up and do the things that he was brought here to do, the things that he was paid here to do. Make shots, play solid defense, and be that guy that just stabs a team in the heart because Tatum's going to make shots. Jaylen Brown's going to make shots. When the 8th, 9th dude off the bench is the guy hitting the shots, that is just a heart snatcher, a soul snatcher, or whatever you want to call it. It's just that simple.
Can Sam Hauser do it, though? How this Magic defense plays, chase him off the perimeter. The fact that they won Game 5 only attempting, 32, maybe 31 threes? That's like 20 below their average.
Yeah.
Where can Sam Hauser have that impact on the game then? We've seen him drive inside. We've seen him, pull up mid-range, sometimes to the cup. But you're right, though. I mean, his three-point shots, it's 1 or 2 attempts a game. That's not what he's getting paid for. That's not his strength. Is he a guy, though, that can attack inside, or are you more thinking of take advantage of the opportunity? You get 1 or 2 good looks from 3, or maybe it's a chuck it up more.
It's one of those situations where they're going to cause turnovers in this game, and they have to be able to cause live ball turnovers that lead into those situations where Sam Hauser gets a swing in transition, and then he hits that 3. That's where he's really dangerous. He's one of those guys that you kind of lose in transition and forget about because of all the big stars that the Celtics has. Those are those opportunities that he has to take into his advantage, and he has to knock down those shots.
So kind of jumping to the other side of the ball really fast because we're sticking with the desperate theme for the Magic. This is a team that can force some turnovers, force some mistakes, but then more importantly, kind of draw those timely fouls. And it sounds like that's going to be part of their game plan tonight to disrupt any game plan that the Boston Celtics try to piece together. So how do they avoid those mistakes of too many turnovers and unnecessary fouls?
Yeah, for the Magic, they have to be a team that plays a slower pace. You know what I mean? When they're at their best, they slow the game down. They have Paolo kind of doing his thing after they run their first action. They get the ball to him. He walks guys down with those crossover moves that he loves to do, and he gets the opportunity to make some big shots. When he's doing that, when Franz is doing that at a high level, that's what really limits this team from making mistakes. They're missing some of their key pieces, you know what I mean? They're missing a Mo Wagner. They're missing the Jalen Suggs. Those are 2 guys who understand what it takes to win in a Magic's jersey, and they won't have those guys. So in order to subsidize that, you have to lean on your stars, and they have to be the guys that say, hey, we got to take care of the ball and put it on their shoulders. That's the only way the Magic have a chance at walking out of this game is if those 2 play at an all-NBA level, which I know that is possible for them, but I don't foresee happening.
Hey, injury reports the same as we've seen it today. Jrue Holiday out, dealing with the hamstring. Jaylen Brown questionable with the knee. He's been upgraded to playing last 2 games.
Yeah.
You and I always do it when we're on Banner. That scale of 1 to 10. What's a panic like? With Jrue Holiday, it's a right hamstring strain. It's not just that it's a hamstring he's dealing with. A strain is something you need to rest. Anytime you activate the muscle, you're going to see it act up. The guy's so important to the defense. What's that panic meter for Jrue Holiday at his age, at this point in his career? Played a lot of games.
Yeah.
For the over the course of this entire postseason, not just tonight or this series against Magic.
Yeah, obviously he's going to miss this game tonight. As far as how it goes on, I think this is one of those precautionary tales. It's one of those situations where Drew probably could have played. I'm not saying he's at 100%. He's probably closer to high 80s, low 90s right now. And it's one of those situations where they're looking ahead already and they say, okay, a Knicks team that we know is going to want to muck it up, has the guards to do a lot of the same things that Drew does on the defensive end and, make you really work for every single bucket. This is going to be a series that they need Drew more in. So I would probably give it on a scale of 1 to 10 how worried I am about Drew's health. I was worried about the finger coming into the end of the season. Now I have to worry about the hamstring. I probably go about a 4 or 5. It's probably hiding just a little bit after watching Damian Lillard go down with the lower leg injury. Yeah. And obviously, Achilles and calf is different than hamstring. But, seeing that and knowing what KP had to go through too last year, it's hiding it up to maybe a 5. But realistically, it should probably be a 3.
Well, seeing the amount of injuries this team has weathered already, do you think that this causes any concern for getting past this series? Like, you got to look at getting a deeper roster to contribute if you're going to go much further. I know Tatum seals the deal, but what's the level of concern there for them healing a little bit more, moving past the Magic?
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't bring me much concern because I think it's giving valuable minutes to Peyton Pritchard. This is a situation where he needs to learn how to, step up. Honestly, he's never really been asked to step up in a playoff series, and he's getting that experience against a Magic team that does a lot of good things on the defensive end, and so he's been struggling. You know what I mean? There's been the games where he's been good, and there's been the games where he hasn't been so good since he's won that 6th Man of the Year award. This is one of those situations. So it doesn't give me pause because the Celtics are the deepest team in the league, especially when healthy. If Drew is going to miss, time going throughout the rest of the playoffs, is it a big blow? Yes. But they have other guys to subsidize that. They have a Torrey Craig who hasn't been leaned on too much in this series. You know what I mean? They have a Sam Hauser who I expect to step up sometime here shortly, and a Peyton Pritchard who does have a role with this team. But you can't forget about the Derek White. You can't forget about Tatum and Brown haven't really played their best basketball yet in this playoff run. These guys will find a way to step up, and so will KP, who obviously had to deal with the injuries last year, but he's been not the best player in this situation. I think he steps up as well.
Let's be honest. Any worry? Do Celtics close it out tonight?
Nah, man. I mean, I said it here on, I said it on Hold My Banner. I'll say it here. The thing about this team is I know they like to close out games when they have the opportunity to do it. They're here at home in TD Garden. They're going to have the fans behind them. Everybody's mad at the Magic after they beat up, almost hurt Jaylen Brown. Now you can blame Drew Holiday getting hurt on them too as well. They've been getting in fights. The fan base is rabid and ready for their team to come back home and send these guys packing, which they should have did it for. They didn't do it. Now they have the opportunity to do it in 5. I don't think they waste too much time in this one.
What about the whole picture of the postseason?
Yeah.
You see the Knicks, what they did to respond to the Pistons. You and I thought that'd be a longer series. New York's dominated. Jalen Brunson's dominated.
Yeah.
What about the overall scope? This is a banged-up Celtics team now.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum dealing with the wrist. Drew Holiday, we don't know when he'll be back with a hamstring strain. Yeah. With the possible matchups that can be throughout just the Eastern Conference, let's look.
Yeah.
What do you feel like? Who do you feel like the biggest threat it could be, or who can make it the most interesting series? With the Celtics team, you and I both picked breezing through the East to get to the finals.
Yeah, honestly, right now, after watching the basketball that I've watched throughout the playoffs, I think the biggest problem for the Celtics will be a team that actually won't even get a chance to see them. It's the Pacers, and I say that because I think the Pacers are going to eventually lose out to the Cavaliers just because the Cavaliers have a little bit extra of that talent level. I think, when you talk about it factors, they have a Donovan Mitchell that's going to take over that series and probably propel them to the win. But the Pacers are actually a team that is playing some of the best basketball in the East right now. And you say, okay, it's the Bucks and they're lowly and all this other stuff, but they're passing the ball well. They're making shots off of it. They have the most assisted buckets in the entire playoffs out of any of the playoff teams. And they're guarding. You have Andrew Nembhard who's fighting through screens, teeth and nail. He looks like a player who's getting ready to ascend. I don't know how they're going to rein him in in for the next couple of years, because he looks like he's almost on that Jalen Brunson track where it's like he's a role player now, but maybe if he gets his own team, he could be an all-star in a couple years from now. And then you have Aaron Nesmith, who used to, be around these parts. He's a guy who's fighting through the screens and doing what he's doing on the defensive end and offensive end. And then you even have guys who have been known as non-defenders, like a Ben Mathurin, who's super locked in, on the defensive end. And that doesn't even bring me to the fact that I'm forgetting to talk about their two stars with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. They have been at an all-world level right now. They're probably two of the best players in the playoffs right now. If you had a top 10 for the guys that are in the playoffs, they're probably, in that top 10. So this is a team that is dangerous, but I don't think they will get the opportunity. If you're going to ask me about a team that will get the opportunity, that I believe at least will get the opportunity to face the Celtics, I just have to go with the Cavaliers. And it's off the simple fact of, hey, coming into this series, they had to face off against a good Heat team that plays good defense. And guess what? Game 1 and 2 were close. Game 2 and 3, they went into, Miami and just absolutely stole the hearts of that city, probably decimated the Heat, probably going into a rebuild. If Giannis doesn't go out there and give them a loan and help them out, they're probably headed into a rebuild. This is a team that has everything. They are just like the Celtics. They're built like them. They have scoring. They have depth. They have defense. They have the ability to play whatever way you want to play, fast, slow, inside, outside, whatever you need, they got it. That's a team that's probably given them the most pause.
Sticking with the bird's eye view before we wrap things up, if you had to critique a weakness that can hinder the Celtics moving through the Eastern Conference, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it would be the fact that they don't want to get in fights with people. That's about it. Other than that, it's a team that's pretty good on paper. I mean, if there was one knock, it would be health, fighting, because I want them to get in fights with some teams, honestly, you know what I mean? And maybe the ability, they haven't shown in this Magic series more of that pace and space offense that they've shown throughout the regular season. They've been more of an ISO ball team, and when you get really ISO heavy, that can get a little dangerous for a team. But I think all of that is just nitpicking. They're a team that, no one's perfect, but they're 98% there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really too worried about this team. I think health is the only thing that could really take this team out.
Who would be the guy for the Celtics? I'm thinking like Xavier Tillman. Yeah. He doesn't play, but they have to have that enforcer. The guy that you're going to throw on the court, do a hard foul, and just swing at someone and eat the suspension. Can't be Luke Cornet. He's too much of a goof. No. Can't be any of your starting five. They're too important. Right. Pritchard, Hauser, it ain't going to be them.
It's not going to be them.
James Quaida, he's too important too.
Right. Isn't it?
Give me Xavier Tillman.
And that's okay. They don't have that guy.
You need someone to stand up though and not take it, especially in their house.
Yeah. JB's going to stand up. Horford's going to stand up. You know what I mean? When Drew comes back, he'll stand up for his team. But actually, you need guys that want to fight a little bit sometimes in certain series or in certain moments, or where they like it and they're looking forward to it, to just get the other team to take them a little bit more serious and back up a little bit. That's it. That's all I'm asking for.
You just need the guy you're going to stare in their eyes and you're actually afraid of them. You think they snap. I don't think Al would do it. I mean, he's an old man, and that's fine with me. Yeah. JB's too important. I would push that button.
He would snap though.
I get what the Magic are doing though. At least they got to muck it up in some way, get inside their heads. Cole Anthony's eating his words.
Respect.
But you got to find someone.
Yeah, respect.
That's a hole in the roster. We found it.
Respect to them. You got to, at this stage of the game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Whatever it takes to win.
Everything is fair in love and war. Is that what they like to say? Right. It's one of those things where we're at war. It's life or death. In the terms of basketball, it's life or death. And at the end of the day, they don't want to die. They want to be the team that goes on and survives. And so they're going to do whatever they got to do. And that's what they got to do to try to win a game is, push around Tatum and Brown and Horford and all this other stuff and pick fights. Then respect to them. At least they're willing to do it.
That'd be fun to be that guy. Hey, I'm the one that'll swing. I would take that. I don't care. Whatever gets me to the NBA. I'm 5'7". Tay, we always end it with you. What's the final score, though? Game 5.
Ooh, yeah. So on Banner, I went 115, 101.
Wow, high scoring.
And the reason I think is we're going to have the Jays finally give us that big offensive game together that we've looked for. They've done it individually, but we haven't got it so far throughout this playoff run because of injuries or whatever you have it. But I think this is a game where they're finally starting to get rid of their elements and they're ready to play at a high level. So And I think the other guys are going to step up as well. I mean, KP's been atrocious on the offensive end. I think he's finally going to give us a big game here in Boston. Derek White is back here in Boston. These guys get that energy from TD Garden. And I think it's going to be one of those games where they pull away late. I think it's going to be one of we probably go into the third quarter or into the fourth quarter tied or up 2 or up 3, but I think late in that fourth quarter they pull away and let this Magic team know, hey, it's time to sunset, dog. I
like it. Scoring opens up. Game 5, close it out. Knicks, see ya. Jalen Brunson, welcome to the jungle in TD Garden. All right, he's Ountae Campbell. You want to catch all the Celtics breakdown, all NBA, make sure to check out my guy and Travis Thomas on Hold My Banner. With the postseason underway and the Celtics pursuing Banner 19, check out Hold My Banner. New episodes dropping weekly. Everything Celtics, everything NBA, hosted by Travis Thomas and Ountae Campbell. Get on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You could also watch it on Twitch. You can watch it on Nesson's YouTube as well. That's Hold My Banner. Everything Celtics, everything NBA. Now throw it to our guys, Matt and Athan, with the latest Ringside review for the latest on Monday Night Raw.
Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Athan Hristodulu, joined alongside, as always, by Matt Colpitts here, reviewing another edition of Monday Night Raw. With a lot going on, a lot of things developing quickly. Backlash is literally not this weekend, but the following weekend. Very, very quick turnaround, just 3 weeks between WrestleMania and the Backlash show. So, Matt, today we're talking, of course, some of the things that unfolded last night, and we'll land first with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. This is something that you and I have kind of gone back and forth a little bit about, so I'm excited to see that Lyra's going to get the opportunity, and we saw a little bit of it last night with her establishing a character. I feel like the biggest issue I've had with Lyra, not her in-ring work. She does a great job there. It's just, I need a reason to invest in her. And it's great that she has the championship and WWE's clearly behind her, but she needed something to take her to that next level. And here comes Becky Lynch providing that opportunity to strap that rocket onto her and maybe propel her up to a higher position in the company. So powering through what, Chance? I was a little bit worried as she was talking. She held her own against Becky Lynch. How do you feel about this angle that we're getting between the two?
Yeah, man, I think you took the words right out of my mouth because I love this program, actually. I realized watching Raw last night, I don't really watch NXT. I think this might be the first time I've ever heard Lyra's voice, which is pretty crazy. She is, as you said, incredible in the ring, but I also needed something to kind of buy into this. I never really understood her character. You could even tell doing the entrance, the whole like woo thing that they do felt kind of forced. Like nothing was really clicking with her character. So I think this is actually perfect. I think Becky, has kind of already done it all in the industry. The only thing that has eluded her so far is this new championship, the Intercontinental Championship. So it makes sense for her to pursue this, all the while elevating Lyra. So I think it's going to be great. I love that Lyra is actually getting a program, a chance to show what she can do on the mic and go toe-to-toe with, a top star. Many consider to be the top women's star of all time. Controversial, subject to opinion, but that is what a lot of people deem. So I'm excited for this program, and I'm buying into it.
So I have a question for you here, because this is the one thing that I'm struggling with right now, and I'm genuinely concerned about how WWE is going to grapple with this. The character with Lyra right now, again, planting seeds, we need a little bit more to really kind of figure out where she's going to be as a person in the ring, but it felt kind of just like, I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to prove to you type of deal. So with Becky Lynch now as her opponent in this situation here, she comes out, she admits to being the one who attacked Bayley. All the heel tendencies you could ask for from her, going at the crowd, like everything. But yet, even while in between a few of the things that she said, the crowd's still cheering for her. I have and believe me, I'm excited to see a heel Becky Lynch. I think she can do great work as a heel, but it is going to be difficult to turn her heel. How do you think WWE does that? Because that is the one thing that I'm struggling with the most right now, is giving me a reason, knowing that Becky Lynch is doing what she's doing at this stage in her career to elevate talent, to make the IC title important. Those are nice things. Those are things that make me like Becky Lynch more, not hate her more, despite what they're trying to do here.
So I see 2 points to make with this problem. Point number one, I think with the situation at hand, it's inevitable because, again, Becky is who she is. But I think the solution being that Bayley is still involved in this. And Bayley's pretty loved, once in a while, maybe she'll get booed. Every wrestler gets booed inevitably in their career. But I think the whole idea is like, you just got to accept this. Because my second point is that's how heels are now in WWE. Look at Seth Rollins when he came out at the beginning of Raw. You would think that maybe, it might be a little bit more of a mixed crowd reaction, some boos. I don't think I heard a single boo.
Nah.
All I heard was cheering, people singing along to his song, cheering. And if anything, when Sami Zayn came out, it almost seemed like the crowd was kind of turning on him as a face a little bit, and they were cheering everything that Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman were putting out. So I think that is just the state of WWE. You kind of accept that heels get cheered. So I think it's inevitable that Becky's getting cheered in this feud. But to go back to my first point, I think if anyone's going to maybe help turn the crowd on her, it's going to be Bayley. I don't think Lyra has that pull. This is a program for her to establish herself and put herself on the map. She's not there yet. The fans are not going to pick her over Becky. But once Bayley gets involved, whether it's an interference at Backlash or however it goes down, I see that maybe being the like, okay, now we got 2 4 horsewomen going together. Those that have stuck by Bayley's side since the beginning might finally start, booing Becky, and that's kind of the only solution I really see to this issue.
That's actually a really good point, and something we even floated around in the offices earlier today was just like, maybe Bayley gets involved down the line with this rivalry, however it kind of plays itself out, being that Lyra has a connection to the both of them, and maybe it turns into something that like ends in a IC triple threat down the road where you allow Lyra to maybe go over these 2 legends in their own rights, I would say, at this stages in their careers. So we'll have to see how it goes. Next thing on the docket we got to get into here, Logan Paul coming out and basically saying, I want a world championship, and he's targeting Jay. They continue to make Jay look like the underdog, even as a champion here, because you have to think Logan, who has no world championships and has yet to be able to capture one despite opportunities he's had. Now he's going after someone that he thinks he can take down, in a Jey Uso. How are you feeling about this one here? This is one of those things where I did not expect this. This kind of came out of left field for me, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet, but I am intrigued by the idea of how they're going to handle a Logan Paul who I really don't know how the WWE universe feels about him. However you feel about him outside of WWE is one thing. I enjoy his character work, and I also enjoy his in-ring work, surprisingly enough, but I don't know how this one plays out. It feels like an obvious win for Jay, or could we potentially, are they going to cut his reign that short to a guy like Logan Paul? I can't buy that.
Yeah, so first off, I actually saw, I don't know where people get their information, if there's an insider or what, but I actually did scroll upon this on Twitter, and I saw that this was rumored. People are already building this as kind of like those dream Backlash cards. And
really?
Everybody was running with the idea of Logan Paul and Jey Uso, and I had no idea where it was coming from. Mm-hmm. But now that I've seen it happen last night on Raw, and now I see if you kind of paint or connect all the pieces of the puzzle, I think it makes sense. And the reason being, you just had Logan Paul go over AJ Styles, a legend in his own right, at WrestleMania. Jey Uso wins the title. You already have this kind of mixed reactions with Jay. At the end of the day, he's still getting the incredible crowd pops and whatnot. But with all the internet drama, he's kind of getting that mixed reaction. Who do you put against to try to get the fans behind Jey Uso early in his title reign? Someone that is hated.
All right.
Logan Paul. That is why I think it just makes sense to have this feud. Logan's coming off a huge WrestleMania win. Where does he go from here? Might as well give him a program with the world champion. It just, even though on paper you're like, why? I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So I do think that it would be crazy if Logan actually comes out of this the winner. But I do see why they're going with the program, and I could buy into it. I do think it'll be a fun match. It's a different style for Jay. He's been fighting the slower guys like Gunther and bigger guys. So it'll be cool to see him against a high flyer like Logan. But once I pieced those puzzle pieces together, I was like, okay, I see the vision.
Yeah, this is one of those, I'm assuming the match will be fun. I don't necessarily, I use the word fun because as far as a technical wrestling match, I don't really know. But as far as a fun, enjoyable match, I'm sure it'll be good. Logan, like I said, every time I say it, I can't believe I'm saying it, but he does a good job in the ring. Jey Uso, with his style of offense as well, I think could blend really well with what Logan Paul does. So it's just one of those things that, to your point, I wasn't even seeing the rumor mill online even point to this. And just for them to all of a sudden, Logan Paul comes out and just bang, he's calling out Jey Uso. Yes, the points make sense. Both of them coming off big wins off of WrestleMania. It's been a while since Logan Paul had a big championship match that wasn't for the United States Championship or something along those lines. So I can see the vision. It's just one of those things that I was not expecting. So I guess I just kind of have to see how it plays out. But I'm in the camp of okay, maybe this is to just generate heat on Logan Paul and give some more fanfare to Jey Uso, with fans being kind of 50-50 on how they feel about him holding the title at this moment here. I don't really see how Jey comes out of this program losing, other than just for the shock factor kind of thing. And I could only imagine the heat generated if Logan Paul comes out as a world champion this quickly into Jey Uso's reign. The other thing that I did not know I wanted, and honestly, as it was first initially kind of starting, as it happened on Raw, I was kind of like, oh no, like don't tell me this is the angle we're going with. But Pat McAfee versus Gunther at Backlash. I did not want this, even as I first started listening to Pat McAfee start to speak. But as he continued to get across his point of his support for Michael Cole, the love that they have for each other, how much Michael Cole has given him since he's joined the WWE as a team on the commentary table, I started to see where they were coming from, and I really like the direction. We have basically a friend defending another friend that can't defend themselves against a big bad bully, and I see the vision here. For me, there needs to be one outcome from this, though, and this is where my worry about this ends up coming up, is if Gunther does not come back from this indefinite suspension, which I'm assuming, based off reports, it sounded like he wanted some time off after Mania. I'm assuming we don't see him again until either the Raw before or just we'll see him again at Backlash. He needs to come out and just demolish Pat McAfee. This match cannot be close for Gunther's sake and for the story's sake. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I want this to be 5 minutes max.
Yeah,
max, if even. Maybe it's like a Sheamus and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania.
Five minutes if Gunther's just toying with this food kind of thing.
Yes. Maybe it's like a Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. It's over in like 12 seconds or however long that match was. I don't really buy into this, but I will say I do think Pat McAfee is just entertaining. At the end of the day, he's, ESPN's golden boy. Now he's becoming WWE's golden boy. He is just money wherever he goes. And I do think he did sell this feud with the promo last night. With that being said, though, one thing that disconnected from me from Pat McAfee, like as a wrestler, was whichever Royal Rumble it was 2 or 3 years ago, where like he entered, he steps up into the ropes. I think it was like Omos, like in the ring.
Yeah,
and
there's a bunch of right guys. Brock Lesnar might have been in there too.
Ever since then, I've been rubbed the wrong way. I was like, he's not taking this seriously. He's not. That's one thing I can give respect to Logan Paul, is that he does actually take, as a celebrity, he takes the art of wrestling seriously. He's actually dedicating time and whatnot. Pat McAfee just can't do that. He's got way too many commitments. He's got his own Pat McAfee show. I'm not trying to be a propaganda guy for Pat McAfee here and promote everything, but you know how much he does.
Yeah.
I just want Gunther to really reestablish himself, become a monster. Or again, he's been a monster, but it's time to, after a loss at Mania, reestablish himself. In fact, 2 straight losses, because he also lost to Sami Zayn the year before. It's time that he just goes on a rampage. I want like a Mark Henry, like Hall of Pain type of run from Gunther, where he's just absolutely, relentless. So, yeah, I see why they're going this route. I think it's better than almost like the Damian Priest route, where he just kind of gets lost into like a mid-card feud. It's nice that Gunther's going to have this like seeming directive where he goes crazy and like on a rampage. So I see the vision, but I completely agree. Squash match, please.
Yeah, I feel like if this goes any other way besides Gunther just laying into Pat McAfee and sending a message to everybody that like okay, I lost at WrestleMania, but I'm back type of deal. Like that's the only direction that this can go. Because if Pat McAfee's putting up a fight with Gunther, after some of the complaints I had with him kind of it felt like, I don't want to say not taking the previous matches leading up to WrestleMania seriously, but clearly getting caught off by some of his opponents, the way they were kind of playing the whole story out. I need Gunther back, whooping McAfee. And like you said, if it's 5 minutes at most, it's him just toying with McAfee to get the point across that, like, I am who I am and you all need to respect me type of deal. And I think it's also they did a good job of, like, segueing Gunther away from Jay to allow for Jay to do some other stuff before their eventual. I'm assuming they're going to have to meet face to face again at some point. Like, we can't just leave Jay and Gunther at that. So this was a nice way to kind of get Gunther away from Jey Uso and allow him to reestablish himself that way. So I again, something I did not want. And even as I first started to see it unfold, I didn't want. But then after listening to McAfee, credit to him, he did a great job selling me on it. Finally, though, we got to talk about it. It started the night with an offer from Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, basically telling Seth Rollins he's hypocritical for all the stuff that he had against the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and what he needed to stop against CM Punk and all this, yada, 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 the future. And to Sami Zayn's point, fair. I honestly think so. I mean, Seth Rollins is well established at this point. The future going through him doesn't really make sense. Like, Seth Rollins has been around the block now for the better part of nearly 15 years. Like, this isn't like a new guy up and coming type thing. And, you know, Bron Breakker is obviously his case in point. I have the future here with me type of deal. But This had a lot of layers to it. Sami Zayn being basically offered safety. You're my friend. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to kind of deal. Telling him we'll get you sent to SmackDown. And then later on, Paul Heyman even offering him a guaranteed undisputed WWE Championship match if he takes the offer and goes to SmackDown. Obviously giving a lot for Sami Zayn to think about. And of course, the ultimate no at the end. He ends up having to face Bron Breakker and getting demolished. At this point now, I think we have a clear vision of what's going on here. Seth Rollins, the manipulative type of guy that he is, he has Paul Heyman in his back pocket. I like the open and upfront use of Paul Heyman as a guy that can pull strings in the back, because it was something that was like alluded to when he was with Roman, but not really in your face. The fact that we're now throwing it in our faces and seeing it firsthand. Heyman can literally get you a championship match whenever he wants. I love that aspect of the faction. Breakker is obviously the muscle and probably the guy that ends up being the split between Seth and Paul whenever that happens down the road. Sami Zayn being the, I guess, victim, the first victim, I think it is perfect. Sami Zayn's the perfect babyface for this. He is the guy that he'll never take an offer like this. It was never something that I even considered, even with the championship offer put his way. My only question is this like the feud that we're going to get going into Backlash? Like, I was assuming that Seth Rollins would probably be thrusted in some sort of championship picture immediately and using that faction to his advantage that way. But instead, we just have him, I guess, slow planting seeds. Like, where are we going here?
Yeah, I mean, I love your breakdown of it, and I think to continue off of what you have already said, I want to focus on Rollins and I want to focus on Zayn in this scenario because first off with Zayn, I feel like that's a quicker point. Something's brewing, and I know you say he's a great babyface, and I completely agree. I would love to see him win the inevitable title as a babyface, and I love that he had that promo last night to kind of plant the seeds and remind people that like that is still his ultimate goal, to win the title. It's a reminder that he's not going to just try to retire as a mid-carder, never winning the big one. That feels kind of like a Kofi Kingston kind of build, like he's going to win it finally. It's going to be a one reign. It's going to be feel good coming later in his career. I like that foreshadowing. But something, and maybe it was coincidental and it wasn't supposed to happen that way, but last week when he was doing the celebration with Jey Uso, he came back and there was like a moment where he kind of planted his feet. Jay was up on the turnbuckle, and you almost thought he was going to hit like a haluva kick or something and turn on Jay. And the crowd was even starting to cheer a little bit. They're like, here comes the turn. And then nothing happened. And then now for him to be kind of thrust into this with this new heel group, it's all mysterious. A lot of signs are like, maybe are they trying to do a whole angle where like Zayn is going to be put in a situation almost like the Bloodline where he got initiated into the group. Is he going to like end up joining Seth Rollins after all? Is that where they're going with this? I don't know. But maybe it is just as simple as, you know, he's the first babyface to kind of fall victim, and that's that. Now to Seth Rollins, I think going into the night, I was scared. I actually didn't like the opening to Raw because it gave me vibes of The Rock when he came back and kind of ruined the build. It was the first Raw on Netflix, and he was just like completely destroying kayfabe. He was like, I'm a face, like welcome to Raw, woohoo, Las Vegas, like just promoting everything as a businessman. That's kind of what Seth Rollins was doing in a sense. Like he wasn't really acting like a heel. He did have some of his egotistical ways, kind of reminiscent of like his Messiah gimmick, being like so into himself. But he was still kind of catering to the crowd and, you know, catering to Sami. Maybe it was all a brainwash or a manipulation because at the end we did see finally some heel tactics from Seth Rollins. But that was my initial feelings at the start of Raw. And by the end, I loved it. I loved that he just, you know, stomped in Zayn after already getting 4 out of 5
with
spears.
The loafers. Wearing the loafers.
And the $14,000 jacket. I saw that was expensive.
Yeah. Expensive curb stomp.
Yes, an expensive curb stomp. So I like it. I like the slow build, the mystery of like who's gonna be a member, who's joining. I know last week we discussed the possibility of like Becky joining. Like who's gonna join this faction? What's the goal? Is it just for Rollins to have Rollins and Heyman? I mean, Heyman's already a Hall of Famer. Is it for Rollins to win a title and kind of boost his ego? Is it to boost the future and they're gonna strap up Braun? We'll see. But yeah, there was a lot to take away, and I do like, after seeing how Raw played out, how this is going so far.
Yeah, I feel like the big question that is just and maybe it's a good thing, and this is me just wanting the answers now and not wanting to be patient, because this is definitely more of a slow burn story where I want to see results now. Like I want to see where this relationship with Paul Heyman's going for Seth Rollins, because it was just something that came so out of left field in the build up to WrestleMania and then ultimately what we got at the show itself. But I feel like You made a really good point, because I had that similar feeling at the start of Raw where we went through that first segment and I was like, this feels kind of slow for what we got last week. And I'm a little bit worried about it because, like you said, Seth didn't feel like a heel. But now that you've laid that out the way you did, and after speaking this out loud a little bit more with you, I think it's classic Seth Rollins, manipulative, kind of not allowing you to really understand what he's doing, because, again, he's supposed to be a bad guy now. He got Paul Heyman to turn with him at WrestleMania, but here he is preaching about how he's for the company, for the future. He's doing a really good job of working the crowd, and clearly maybe even you and I. So at this point, it's one of those slow burn things, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the end result here. And maybe it's just me being impatient. But I do have one quick question before we wrap, and be quick on this one. Does this faction need a name, or should they just keep doing what they're doing? Because people are talking about what the name should be. Give it like 20 seconds. Thoughts?
Don't know what name it will be. I think they need it. At the end of the day, heel factions are just killer. Evolution, Judgment Day, you name it. I want to see a name. I don't have any input as for what it will be, but yes, they need a name.
Yeah, I saw somebody pitch Revolution as like a callback to Evolution. I don't like that. I want its own name, but we'll have to see what they turn into. But that is it for me and Matt. As always, if you made it to the end, greatly appreciate it. We'll see you all next week for another edition of Ringside Review.
Shout out Matt and Athan for the Ringside Review. Shout out to you guys for making us a part of your day. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson, Boston has entered the chat. New episodes dropping every day of the week. We'll see you guys same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.